So the name of this talk is The Courage to Change. And, you know, talk about change. Well, what kind of change am I talking about? I'm talking about spiritual change. I'm talking about excavating those painful, traumatic, disheartening experiences that we all have had, especially in our childhood. Because as a child, when you go through trauma, you don't have the tools to process it. Sometimes we don't know we have it. In my case, I didn't know I had it. I thought I was fine. I was married, I had a perfect family, all the money was taken care of, he took care of everything, he loved me, I loved him, we had 3 beautiful children, good children. My mother died, and that opened up, okay, I might have some unresolved stuff with my less than perfect mother. And I went on this spiritual journey. I didn't know I would have to leave my husband to do it. And I was really scared. And I was trying to, go to counselors and work through it all because I really loved my family and I loved my life, I thought. I didn't love me at all. And the reason for that is because there were some early childhood experiences of abuse and sexual trauma, and I was ridiculed for being chubby as a kid, and my mother abused diet pills. I wasn't skinny, I wasn't perfect, whatever we tell ourselves, right? I bought in, and it wasn't the truth, and I spent my whole life trying to be perfect, trying to be the hostess with the mostest, showing up, best dressed, whatever. I could never be good enough. I could never be good enough. And the reason why was because there were things that needed to be healed inside me so that I could know the truth, that I was worthy, that I was beautiful, that I was powerful, that we all are. And it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank. None of that brings you happiness. Happiness comes from within. So I had to go on a really painful journey, which started with my mother's death, literally picking up a suitcase, 26 years of marriage, and I gotta go. And Spirit made it really easy at the beginning. I wrote 20 minutes of comedy. By the time I got to the gate, sat down, typed it all up, and I was doing open mic, and I was doing comedy, all these things. I was like, wow, who knew divorce would be this easy? That was just Spirit's way of making sure I didn't go back. Because my husband said, I will welcome you back with open arms at any moment. And I knew he would. And I knew that was an option. But it couldn't be an option for me because I would never discover who I was. Okay, he had control issues and It doesn't matter what the story is. We co-created a reality where I would be disempowered through all my childhood, even the marriage, that I would then have to empower myself so I could create this for other women and men eventually, but other women, because guess what? We all need it, and it sucked doing it alone in a pandemic, all by myself in a new house, not knowing a soul, wave upon wave upon wave of crying, seeing things for the first time. That's when I saw my sexual abuse at 7 and 11 by a trusted family friend. That's when I saw that my perfect mother wasn't perfect, and it hurt me to resent her. It hurt me so deeply to resent a woman who sacrificed her whole life for her 5 kids but couldn't say, I love you. She couldn't connect to me emotionally or her other 4 kids. And it hurt to resent her, but I had to face that. And so as it came up, I cried. As it came up, I screamed, I yelled. I used breath. I used Reiki. And you know what? A wave knocked me down, and the next day I got back up, and another wave knocked me down, because you know what? I had no other choice. I want to be everything I came here to be, okay? The first half of my life was really, really hard. I want the next half to be joyful, to be magical. I want all of that pain to serve a purpose so that I can now be enjoying creation and help others with it. And I was never a victim, ever. Thank God for that perspective. Early on, I studied with Access Consciousness. And so, I knew you're just never a victim. You co-create everything, even the painful lessons. You create them. Your soul does. You come in with a contract. I want to have this. Hey, you over there, I need a guy who's kind of like loves me, but gives me this and that, but is controlling, and I feel I'm walking around on eggshells. Who wants to play that guy? And we decide ahead of time. I had to have the experiences I had. And I one day, maybe you'll read about them in a book. There were many. And the fact is, maybe not everybody has the same level of trauma and pain or whatever, but we all do. We all have stuff to heal. And it takes courage. It really does. I mean, but the fact of the matter is, when I've seen people try to avoid it, like, I don't want to see that, I don't want to leave the marriage, the lessons get harder and harder. And first it's a tap on the shoulder, then it's like, hey, want to wake up now? And then it's a kick down the stairs. Okay? Why do people create like cancer? I mean, I know many people who have created cancer and healed it, and they said, well, when they came to me for Reiki, I asked God to be more spiritual. I'm like, what a powerful creator you are. Okay, let's get down to business. And she's healed, and she's more spiritual. But she had to go through breast cancer. Breath cancer? No, I don't think there's a breath cancer. I think I mean breast cancer. Shaking like a leaf at my door. And I had just gotten trained in Reiki. And they said, when you get level 1 Reiki, your vibration's going to go up. Look to the person to the right. They say this in medical school too. Person to the right, one of them won't be there. And they say that maybe your spouse won't, because you're raising your vibration. So as you heal, as you excavate, guess what? Each time I'd have a breathwork session, a really big one, I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, wow, did I just get 10 years younger? Because I look amazing. And my eyes were brighter. You can literally see the energy around you lift. You know how you see the pictures of the saints with the halos? We all have an auric field. And so when that's vibrating higher, you become more magnetic. You become more attractive. You don't age as fast. You know, all of these things happen when you're in a higher vibration. You'll also notice that your reality needs to shift a little. Friends that you used to be able to hang out with, they're not fun anymore. The gossip, it brings you down. You know, you start to say, how can I lovingly support myself in being the highest vibration? What will keep you away from those decisions and choosing for you is fear. Fear will stand there whispering in your ear. Fear is, by the way, always a liar, okay? Fear, and I love this quote from Paul Selig, fear will have you convinced that it is your constant companion when in fact it chooses to control your every move. And so I wrote like a musical, and my mother was in it, and my guardian angel, my dead mother, and Fear. Fear is a snarky character in my musical because he's funny and he tries so hard, and it's not a he or a she, or you know what I mean. But the fact is, I characterized the energy of fear. And fear will tell you, don't take a chance on that business. You'll lose every penny. Who do you think you are to think that what you're doing is important? Imposter syndrome. Fear will tell you, you know what? You got it good enough. Why don't you quit while you're ahead? Don't go for broke. Don't go for everything. Oh, the relationship, the marriage. It's not everything you ever wanted, but it's good enough, isn't it? You got a roof over your head. You have a man who loves you or a woman who loves you. But do you love you? Does that person want you to love you? Does that person want you to live your life to the fullest? Do you? No, fear will say, no, don't. And so I let fear rule me for, most of my life until I started to see it. Yeah, I studied with Paul Selig. I highly recommend his channeled texts. We all have our own paths. We all have our own way, right back to ourselves. The truest expression of you is a powerful, amazing being without all the trauma, without all the pain, without all the lack of self-love. That's the real you. So I think of journeying and courage to change as you're not really changing, you're actually becoming who you always were. You were born perfect. And then you had a lot of experiences. And so it isn't comfortable to see some of those things, especially those things that were repressed that you're not aware of. Like I knew I had My father died when I was 7. I knew he was abusive, but Spirit only allowed me to remember 2 memories. I was 7. I had 2 memories of my father, one happy one and one of him beating us. And but the more work I did, I got to see more. And it was painful. But as soon as it came up, it was out. And I was no longer reacting to people from, oh, you're the one who always took advantage of me, or you were the betrayer, or you're the one who abandoned me. When I healed those energies, I don't react anymore. So even if somebody says something insulting to me or crosses a boundary, I don't get nuts because I got to the root cause. And so the courage to change is really about becoming the true you, free of all of that pain and that trauma that you learned through, and you get to let it go. But it doesn't just, miraculously disappear. I mean, maybe for some people. Some people have these spontaneous kundalini openings. I don't know. I wasn't that lucky. And that's why people do breath work and Reiki and ayahuasca and mushroom journeying and all these other things. And, meditation, of course. All of these things work. And they work to, there's layers. And it seems like you start outside, and at one point I got all the way into like the inner child, this little girl, and that's when a huge depression hit me, like massive out of the blue, and I was like, oh wow, this is the heaviest. The marriage stuff was painful, but what she went through, that was the hardest to face and confront. But, I'm happy to report I'm still finding stuff, but it's lighter. And it's not every day Wailing Wall releases, which I had. And, and today, because of what I've gone through, I've created an online platform that has healing content for the mind, body, spirit. We've done events. All women need womb healing. If you're in a woman, you're in a body, or you were born in a woman's body, even if you've transitioned, you still have the energetics. The divine feminine has undergone trauma for thousands and thousands of years. So even if you didn't have sexual trauma, like your mother, we're all connected, right, as one. So the more we do for ourselves, it also benefits everybody else because we're all connected. So when they say be the change you want to see in the world, you literally are. By loving yourself, you're healing the world. And if you feel like you can't do anything to help what's going on in the world right now, because there's war and maybe we're going to have a 3rd world war, and maybe there's, all the atrocities, it's just mind-boggling, right? When you feel like you're helpless and hopeless and can't help, just know that the best thing you can do is keep yourself balanced, in love, pray, maybe a prayer circle you can put together. There's a lot you can do. More than you realize. You are so much more powerful than you guys know. I mean, I'm still discovering, and it's hard to say that because it sounds like, oh, I'm powerful. And no, I mean powerful like love powerful. Like we all have the ability to affect change, and we're not helpless. So, just try not to get lost in the fear, especially of the world and the news, and what you're hearing is outpictured in your reality. Try to focus on you. Bring the love inside first. And I say, if you're not yet there with your self-love, it's a journey, but it's one worth going on because, God, when you love yourself, I was a girl who was like afraid of failure. I quit my acting school because I thought I would be a starving actress. I quit everything that I thought was a risk. And today I'm taking the biggest risk I've ever taken, and I'm totally in faith and trust because I'm leading with my heart. And that wouldn't have been possible 15 years ago because I was a different person back then. All of that pain and all of that trauma was creating who I was and how I was operating in the world. And I was playing it very safe and very small. And today I'm playing it really big, and I'm taking lots of risks, and I'm like, I don't fear failure anymore. It's not because I don't think it's a possibility. It's just like, it doesn't define me. I feel like it's great if you try. You've won if you've gone for it. That's where the winning is, not in the success, now you're a valuable person. No, you always were. And that's, I think, the shift that I've had that sometimes when I work with other people in healing, I try to communicate is that, maybe through my story and through my own journey, it's a possibility, because if anybody went through it, I went through it, and I'm not going through it anymore. And again, wasn't comfortable, wasn't always easy, but what was the other alternative? To stay the same and to live a life of limitation and fear and let fear rule me.